People think Mamba mentality is about winning, about waking up early, about never getting tired. That's the part they post. What they don't talk about is what it takes from you before it gives anything back. I didn't build this mindset to motivate anyone. I built it because I didn't know how to be ordinary, because slowing down felt like disappearing, because silence was louder than pain. Mamba mentality isn't confidence. It's pressure you put on yourself. When you don't trust the world to do it fairly, it demands obsession. And obsession doesn't ask if you're ready. It just takes. Most men don't break because they're weak. They break because they try to carry discipline without purpose, intensity without direction, pain without meaning. They copy the routine, but skip the reason. They think pushing harder will fix the emptiness. It doesn't. It just hides it longer. I learned early that greatness isolates you before it rewards you. That commitment costs relationships before it earns respect. And if you don't understand that trade, this mentality will eat you alive. I'm not saying don't chase it. I'm saying understand the price before you call it strength. Because Mamba mentality doesn't care who you are. It only asks one question. What are you willing to lose to become who you say you want to be? Nobody warns you about the quiet part. The part where discipline stops feeling noble and starts feeling mandatory. Where rest feels like guilt. Where slowing down feels like betrayal. To the version of yourself you promised to become. Mamba mentality trains you to ignore signals. Pain becomes background noise. Exhaustion becomes normal. Doubt gets labeled as weakness instead of information. You stop asking why you're pushing and only ask how much more you can take. That's where most men get lost. They think suffering equals progress. They think if it hurts, it must be working. So they keep going. Long after the work stopped serving the mission. Discipline without reflection turns into punishment. Consistency without clarity turns into a cage. I've seen men become prisoners of their own standards. Never satisfied. Never present. Always chasing a version of success that keeps moving further away. They don't burn out loudly. They don't quit dramatically. They just go numb. And numbness is dangerous. Because when you stop feeling pain, you also stop feeling purpose. Mamba mentality doesn't break you overnight. It breaks you slowly by convincing you that ignoring yourself is the same as being strong. It isn't. Most men think discipline means control. Control over time. Control over habits. Control over emotion. That's the surface version. Real discipline is harder. It's knowing when to push, and when pushing is just fear, wearing the mask of commitment. Mamba mentality was never about doing more. It was about doing what mattered, even when it cost you comfort, applause, and sometimes approval. But here's where most men get it wrong. They borrow the intensity without earning the self-awareness. They adopt the grind without defining the mission. So every day becomes a test. Every rest feels like failure. Every pause feels like falling behind. That's not strength. That's anxiety with structure. True discipline listens. It notices when effort stops creating growth, when pressure stops sharpening you and starts grinding you down. If you don't build that awareness, Mamba mentality becomes a loop. Work, endure, repeat. No reflection, no alignment, no meaning. And eventually, the question changes. Not, how great can I become, but how long can I survive like this? That's when men break. Not because the mentality is wrong, but because they followed the rules without understanding the reason. Here's the part nobody prepares you for. The silence after the effort. When the routine is still there, but the recognition isn't. When you're doing everything right and no one is watching anymore. This is where most men quit. Not because the work is hard, but because it feels invisible. Mamba mentality doesn't promise validation. It doesn't guarantee respect. It only guarantees one thing. You will be alone with your standards. If your discipline was built on being seen, being praised, being needed, this is where it collapses. Because discipline that survives doesn't need an audience. It needs alignment. You have to know who you're doing this for. When no one claps, when progress is slow, when results don't match the effort. This is where intensity either matures or turns toxic. Some men double down. They push harder. They isolate more. They mistake distance for focus. Others step back. They listen. They recalibrate. Not because they're weaker, but because they understand something deeper. Endurance without meaning is just erosion. Mamba mentality only works when it's rooted in identity, not ego. When it's fueled by purpose, not fear of falling behind. Most men never make this shift. That's why the mentality breaks them. There's a line you cross without noticing. On one side, discipline sharpens you. On the other, it starts consuming you. From the outside, they look the same. Same routine, same intensity, same sacrifice. But inside, everything changes. You stop choosing the work. The work starts choosing you. Mamba mentality was never meant to replace identity. It was a tool, a framework, not a personality. Most men don't realize they've crossed the line until relationships feel like distractions, rest feels like weakness, and silence feels safer than honesty. That's not focus. That's self-avoidance. True strength isn't found in constant pressure. It's found in control. The ability to push and pull back, to stay disciplined without becoming rigid, to stay driven without becoming empty. Mamba mentality doesn't break men because it demands too much. It breaks them because they never learned when to stop proving and start choosing. And if you don't learn that difference, no amount of discipline will save you from yourself. Mamba mentality was never about destruction. It was about precision, about knowing exactly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Most men think intensity is the goal. It isn't. Clarity is. When I pushed myself, it wasn't to escape who I was. It was to meet him, to remove excuses, to strip away comfort until only intention remained. But that only works if you know what you're aiming at. Without clarity, discipline turns into noise, effort turns into avoidance, and the grind becomes a way to feel productive without being honest. Mamba mentality was meant to build men, not hollow them out, to sharpen focus, not erase humanity. It demands commitment, yes, but it also demands self-awareness, the courage to ask, is this still aligned with who I'm becoming? Most men never ask that. They just keep going until the body resists, until the mind shuts down, until life forces the question for them. The mentality itself isn't the problem. Misuse is. And the men who survive it aren't the ones who grind the hardest. They're the ones who understand why they grind at all.